Given the inconceivable amount of galaxies, stars, and planets in the universe, we can almost safely say that life on other planets does exist. Sure, until we can actually prove that point, there's that slight chance that there is nobody out there. However, when or maybe if we ever do meet aliens, what will they be like? Obviously we can't know, but we can make educated guesses. A good way to start is to look at ourselves. What do humans do when we find new land, people and/or creatures we have never encountered before? Well, for example, if we look at when Christopher Columbus first discovered North America, it didn't exactly end too well for the Native Americans. Basically, throughout history, humans have conquered and taken over land and resources. So if aliens that finds Earth are anything like humans, it's most likely going to end very badly for us. However, another point to consider is the fact that if aliens have the technology for interstellar and maybe even intergalactic travel, they might not be very interested in us and, from their perspective, our very primitive world. Neil deGrasse Tyson explained it using a pretty great analogy. You don't walk by a worm and wonder what it's thinking or try to communicate with it. No, you either walk right past it or step on the worm. In other words, if aliens ever do find Earth, or maybe they already have, we might simply be too primitive for them to even consider communicating with us. You can also look at this from the other perspective. What if we humans in, say, a few hundred years or so have become so technologically advanced that we are now the aliens visiting more primitive worlds? And to be honest, this isn't that unlikely. Just look at how much technologically advanced we've become since the Industrial Revolution. It only took about 3 generations for us to go from barely having electricity to having what allows you to watch this video right now, the internet. So what would we do? What would an even more advanced human civilization do if we found primitive life on another planet and actually had the means to visit? Well, there is something called the Zoo hypothesis, which argues that intelligent alien life ignores Earth to allow for natural evolution and cultural development. Basically, they observe and maybe study us from afar and are deliberately hiding from us because they do not want to disturb our development as a species. And it's likely humans would do something similar if we found ourselves in such a situation in the future. It's possible that life could exist on Venus, most likely in the form of bacteria or something very small, but life nonetheless. What's interesting though is that it wouldn't be found on the surface, which is 460 degrees Celsius, no, but in the clouds high up in the Venusian atmosphere, where the conditions are actually quite hospitable. The age of the universe and its vast number of stars suggest that unless the Earth is very unusual, life in the universe should be common. But there is something called the Fermi Paradox. The Fermi Paradox argues that if there are such high estimates of life in the universe, where is everybody? The basic point of the paradox is this. Our Sun is a very young and fairly typical star. There are billions of stars that are billions of years older in our galaxy alone. Surely some of these stars have Earth-like planets. Assuming the Earth is typical, some of these planets have developed intelligent life. And at least a few of these civilizations should have developed the means for interstellar travel. But even if they have a very slow method of interstellar travel, the galaxy could be completely colonized in just a few tens of millions of years. That may sound like much, but given how some of these civilizations could have existed for billions of years, that timescale is nothing. So again, where is everybody? Even though it's unlikely, there's still a possibility that the Earth is the only or one of the very few planets in the universe with intelligent life forms. It's called the rare Earth hypothesis. It suggests that since the development of life on Earth was the result of a long list of geological and astrophysical events, so cosmically random yet so crucially specific, it's unlikely for it to have happened anywhere else in the universe. Thus, there's a slight chance we really are alone. On November 6, 1991, astronomer James Scotty discovered a very strange object now known as 1991 VG. The NEO, or Near-Earth Object, is around 6 to 12 diameters and has a very Earth-like orbit, which is very difficult to explain to be from natural sources and more or less eliminates the possibility of a man-made object. The object also has very rapid changes in brightness, which has led many to believe it could be of artificial origin. Maybe we'll know for sure during its next close approach to the Earth in 2016. In 1984, a team of meteorite hunters found a meteorite now known as Allen Hills 84001. It was blasted off the surface of Mars some 4.5 billion years ago and landed on Earth 13,000 years ago. It's noteworthy because the meteorite may contain fossils of bacteria-like life forms from Mars, which could mean it's the first solid evidence of the existence of alien life. However, after numerous examinations of the meteorite, scientists are skeptical to whether or not the shapes in the rock really are fossils of Martian bacteria. There are thousands of UFO reports every year. Of course, UFO stands for Unidentified Flying Object and does not mean it has to be artificial in origin, and 90% of cases can be explained in one way or another. But the other unexplained 10% are indeed interesting. Such is the case of an event which took place over Los Angeles in 1942, now known as the Battle of Los Angeles. A giant UFO would actually hover over the city and be witnessed by hundreds of observers. There's even photo evidence of the event. What's more is that because this was during World War II, right after Pearl Harbor had been attacked, the military quickly pointed spotlights at the object thinking it might be another attack. Soon after, they began firing and even sent out fighter planes to attack and destroy the UFO. But nothing. The object was hit but didn't seem to take any damage at all. It kept on hovering over the city with the military relentlessly trying to bring it down before vanishing without a trace. The US Air Force later blamed the event on a weather balloon. Make of that what you will. Deinococcus radiodurans is a microbe discovered in 2002 that can, among other things, resist enormous amount of radiation. This type of resistance is unheard of on Earth as it would take several billions of years to develop, leading many to theorize that this microbe might not have originated from Earth. There is something called the Drake equation. It's a formula used to supposedly calculate the number of active alien civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. It works a little something like this. First, the average rate of star formation per year in our galaxy, then the fraction of stars with planets, the average number of planets that can potentially support life, the fraction that can go on to support life, the fraction that can go on to support intelligent life, the fraction of civilizations that develop a technology detectable from space, and length of time such civilizations release detectable signs into space, which would then give you the number of civilizations in our galaxy in which communication might be possible. But as you can see, most of these factors are completely or partly unknown, and thus by changing only one factor just slightly can yield completely different results. So most of what I've said in this video and what you'll hear about aliens in general should be taken with a grain of salt, as it really is just theories and guesswork. Until we find some solid evidence, there is no way of knowing just how common or rare life on other planets really are.